the rest of the jalapenos I've actually put in the freezer with cream cheese. Haha. You alright, darling? Yeah.
I'll put my headphones on.
I can see. So I'm going to be saving these seeds, so I'm just going to have to ferment them a little bit. So you've got to stir them every day until the membrane, show you. Just like tomatoes. Oh. They've got like an anti-sprout layer on them. So not all of them are the best ripeness, but do you know what would probably be best? I'm going to do that. It's a really good idea. Stir them into a single-use plastic bag. I know, I'm terrible. And I'm going to close them. And I'm going to crush them. Because you need to get them out of their little... There you go, look. They're already out of it. So I'm just going to let them ferment a little bit. Look, so they're them. There we go. So I shall that on them. So yeah, I'll mush them every day. They will ferment out of, because you can see they're still in that coat. So they shan't sprout. Now there's only like a few of them in here, but I don't really need massive amount. I want about 10 plants next year. So as you can see, it's not a normal cucumber. It's completely ripened. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw this because it's inedible. Here's another lovely cucumber. I shall attempt not to cut myself over with. Aha! That smells lovely. I believe that this is the yellow cucumber. Something yellow. Chinese yellow, I believe. So, helps if you get it all over your top. Okay. Once again, seal it up. Oh, there's so many more of these. So once again, I'm just going to let that ferment over the next few days. Oh, look at how many there. Babe?
Yeah.
Looks like we're going to have less money spent on seeds next year.
Why?
Saving most of them. Last but not least, lemon cucumber. Now, every time you save seeds, you actually get a better plant that's more acclimatised to your exact location. It is best for you to save seeds. Lots of people are actually scared of saving cupid seeds. And the reason they're scared of it, well, because they're worried about getting a hybrid. Now, cupids will readily hybrid with each other. However, you have to remember that if you do get a hybrid that is poisonous, you won't be able to eat it. It'll be so repulsively disgusting. Allegedly, I mean, do your own research. But apparently it's so disgusting. It's so bitter that it's intolerable. You can't be poisoned by it. Can't eat enough because it's so bitter. It's quite a decent yield of seeds there. So if I do get anything like that from accidental cross-contamination, because basically you put a bag over the flowers, like a jewellery bag over the flower, and then when you hand pollinate it, and then when you finish doing that, and then when the blossoming falls off, you put like a little bow around it so you know which one you've done it for. And that's how you stop cross-contamination. But obviously you can't guarantee that every tiny bit of pollen that you've, like, it could have been whatever, when you take it off, the wind might have blown some in, whatever, right? But it's unlikely. These are probably the hardest ones, and tomatoes, same method, okay? they're a little bit harder to keep the seeds from. You can see. What? There we go. So they'll just sit on the side now. I know it doesn't look the best, but who cares? So these will just sit on the side, and every day I'm just gonna, all at the same time, just squish them around for about 10 days, and then I'm gonna have the very, very nice way of sifting through these, and I will take the seeds out. Now I've done this before with what they call horned melons, so if you want to see exactly how to do that, then go ahead. Now I have my crinkly cute chilies here, and I've saved some seeds there. Exactly the same, well, not exactly the same method. What I've done is when I was hanging them up, I've cut them and pulled out the seeds, and then I've just left them here to dry. As you can see, I'll wait until these dry really, really well, and then I'll put them away. Now you don't want to use your dehumidifier on the basis that your dehumidifier will kill the seeds. Okay, so be careful about that. All right, and if you cooked the chili, then obviously, well, not obviously, you might not know. If you cook the chili, then if you take the seeds out, it's not going to work, okay? Because the seeds have, all the enzymes in them have denatured. Basically means they're broken, all right? It's like if I melted your door key, you're not going to get into the door, are you? So I've done this for my crinkly chilies, which are the ones there, and some bird-eye chilies here. But remember that these cross-pollinate with bell peppers as well. So if you want just these ones, you've got to be super careful about them cross-pollinating, because you won't get a milder chili like off the plant, but you will get a milder plant next time. So they will cross-pollinate and produce a F1 hybrid, which means first generation hybrid. So if you are like in love with one sort of chili, you do need to do the same method as I mentioned before. Jewelry bag over it, yeah, tie it up, come in when the flower opens, you've already got that jewelry bag on, come in, new paintbrush, play with that, make sure it only pollinates itself, and then what you want to do is allow that to grow, put a little bow around it, okay, and then you'll have a true to form chili plant. However, if it is F1 hybrid, okay, and I know that you're gonna come for me, okay, I know, if it is an F1 hybrid and you love the chili, save the seeds, okay? And I'm gonna get murdered for this. Now, F1 hybrid has a 3 in 4 chance of being true to form, okay, but it won't necessarily have the same genetics the next time, if I remember my biology correctly. So an F1 hybrid, so two things are bred together, okay? There's a recessive and a dominant allele, okay? The dominant allele might be showing, but there might be a recessive allele in the mix. It's a little bit like how your parents, you might have a brown-eyed parent and a blue-eyed parent, and you've got blue eyes. It's because you've got the recessive allele. You don't have the brown-eyed allele. Now, doesn't mean the next generation will not necessarily have this trait, but there's a good chance it won't. So I'm going to say risk it, especially with the seeds being like how they are, okay? There was not so long ago we ran out of seeds completely, and like I said, you get the benefit of every year it gets better and better for you. So yes, you could have a plant that doesn't go so well with you, but you might have one that does. Now if it does, what you want to do, the same technique, cover the flower before it opens, pollinate it by hand, and then what you want to do, bow it, collect the seeds. Keep doing that, and eventually over generation, you'll have a stable hybrid. Now a stable hybrid is called an heirloom. Yeah, okay. All an heirloom is a stable hybrid that's about 50 years old, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure. But anything that's stabilized, okay, will be like a future heirloom, okay? Now, everything's cross-pollinated. To start off with, everything you've ever eaten is has undergone natural selection, okay? And I know that you're thinking, no, that's not saying that it is a GMO. That's completely different. GMOs are like in the lab. One of my friends works on it actually, and it's really cool, but it's not what I'm talking about here, okay? And I'm not saying anything about them, I'm just saying the actual technology is a bit mind-blowing for me personally, okay? I'm very simple. Now, If you keep playing with this, okay, yes, sometimes you'll get a plant and you'll think, oh, why did I save you? Then you're not what I wanted. But you will also get plants that are free plants because you've saved the seeds, and they will be perfect, okay? So I say it's worth the risk, but who am I to say that? The F1 hybrid, if it isn't true to form, it might be the wrong colour, it might be slightly smaller, slightly bigger, you know, it's not going to be the end of the world if you're not going to show, but it will be interesting to see, especially if you had kids. Kids love stuff like this, okay? We had a kale plant in our garden, and it went to seed, and we just let it go to seed, and then when it went to seed, we let it pop, and then we were like, oh great, and we just let it grow, and then we've got new kale plants growing in our garden. That was an F1 hybrid. So far, from what I can see, it was a kale actually, not kale. From what I can see, it looks exactly like the parent plant, but obviously I won't know until it's fully formed. So I happened to have kaleets for Christmas. Once again, I did not plant them. So for me, I'm like, bonus, like massive bonus, especially when you didn't plant them. However, I did the same with my beloved, perfect, wonderful red sunflowers this year, okay? So I planted them last year. I kind of got lazy. I did not collect the seeds in time. So I cut them down, collected the seeds, but some of them fallen out beforehand, and up went up my sunflowers. Now I grew red sunflowers at the front and I grew yellow out the back. Now I can tell you for red, the yellow colour of a sunflower is more dominant. Why do you ask? Because the ones at the front were no longer red. They were like orange, like sunset coloured. And some of the heads, because it's multi-headed, some of them at the back grew multi-headed when they were only single-headed. Okay, so you can see it's a mesh of the two genetics. Now, I grew them both this year, and I've once again been lazy and let the seeds drop. So I'm just going to see what happens. I know that the red sunflower is recessive on the basis that most sunflowers are yellow, and this was just a random mutation within the sunflower. Okay, really fantastic story about that, but I'm not going to spoil it for you. If you want to know, pop onto Rare Seeds to YouTube channel. That woman, honestly, I watch everything she's ever produced, ever. She's amazing, and it's so fascinating, all of her stories, and I don't want to ruin it for you. Okay, I won't tell it as well. So every year they're slightly different. They're getting more heads, don't get me wrong, but every year they're getting stronger, better, taller, and they are conditioning themselves to these conditions, and they're free, remember? Okay, I didn't plant them. So to be honest, any sunflower that grows, I'm like, yes. So you saw the sunflowers this year out the back garden, okay? So I let things go to seed, and you probably seen my videos where I just throw the tomatoes on the floor. They'll rot down and they'll produce F1 volunteers next year. And yeah, some of them I'll keep, some of them I'll just like throw to the chickens or whatever, but there'll be something that I haven't planned. All my squashes, I have certain squashes that I'm going to take the seeds out of. So I've already done, I'll show you. This is a potato squash. This potato squash, all I did was scrape them out and leave them on a plate to dry. Now, I have done it where I've put them on tissue paper. Now, I will never do that again. So they stick to the tissue paper, and they're fine, don't get me wrong, but they just look unsightly. So I won't do that again. Once again, not in the dehumidifier, not in a sunny place. And then what I've done is I've dried them, and they're completely, utterly dry. Now, some of them are underdeveloped. That doesn't really bother me because I will see that and know that's underdeveloped. If there's any others, there's some that are broken, so I'll just get rid of them. This is my compost, by the way, so I'm just on my compost collector, and I'll put it out as a compost. So I'm just going to go ahead, and anything that's deformed or anything that's, you know, not perfect, I'm just going to throw away. These are edible as well, by the way, because not all seeds are ripened at the same time. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw the ones that I don't want. Now, these will be perfectly climatised to my conditions. However, I'm going to show you something else. A few years ago, I grew Buffy balls, which was behind in there, right? So I grew them, and I really liked them, and I was like, I'll collect the seeds, but I didn't end up doing it because I got busy. And basically I was like, oh, I ate all of them and I don't have the seeds, and I wish that I kept some. Anyway, I was clearing out my garage because, you know, we knocked down our garage. I'll show you. No more garage. So I'm cleaning out my garage, and I see there was like at the very back of a shelf, I've like lifted up this squash, completely rotten, right? I'm like, oh, had I not noticed that? I know I'm disgusting. Anyway, I've thrown it in my compost heap. Yeah. I threw it in the compost heap. So these are not only an F1 hybrid, right? Not only did I not specifically save the seed, but they look exactly like the mother plant. Look, I'll show you. They look exactly like the ones that I wanted to save. So like I said, F1 hybrid, yeah? Didn't save the seeds properly. Squashes regularly cross-pollinate. Now, the only 2 squashes that I was growing that year was successfully, because none of my cucumbers grew that year, was the Buffy Ball and butternut squash. And I grew the butternut squash out the front and this out the back. It was the only 2 I grew. Oh, and melons. So they could have crossed with a melon, okay? I don't know if that was that year or not. I can't really remember. Anyway, this is what I did. And look, it's a really healthy plant. This plant struggled the first year I tell you, it was tiny. It was like this big. And look at it. Look at it. This is one plant. Okay, I know it's one plant because it grew here. That there is its roots just there. And it is everywhere. It's grown up all over my compost heap. So you can see how green and lush it is. It has got a bit of powdery mildew, but it's done really well considering all my other ones at the allotment have powdery mildew. But the new growth does not have powdery mildew because it re-roots as it goes along. I've got hundreds of Buffy balls on here, look. It's doing so well. Now, like I said, F1 hybrid, yeah? Didn't save the seeds properly. Now, of course, the proof is in the pudding, guys, so it could be that was the worst mistake ever. I will let you know, and if it is, I'm happy to share that, and you can say, oh, that woman has no idea what she's talking about, she's so silly. That's fine. I'm just gonna put my ducks away.